September 2012. The first time John Mucklow's life imploded, he was at La Casina to celebrate his 60th birthday. His friends, Kate and Lou Grossu, were there too. They'd been working on a bottle of wine. Nice, but at $30 a bottle, not breaking the bank nice. The waiter was an obnoxiously cheerful, portly man. According to the stitching on his button-down, his name was Fernando, and he'd been back a few times asking if the trio was ready to order their meals. But they weren't ready yet. They weren't ready to order because Linda, John's wife, hadn't arrived, even though she'd promised she would be on time. And throughout their long marriage, Linda Graceler Mucklow rarely broke a promise. John, better known as Muck by pretty much everyone who already had to keep track of a half-dozen or more Johns, had texted Linda several times to check in. Although he kept the messages brief and light, his anxiety rose a few degrees with every non-response. He'd been sheriff of Sallow Creek for just over 6 years, but had been a deputy for more than 2.5 decades. During those years, he'd heard countless recitations from shell-shocked parents and spouses about how they tried to call or text a loved one who'd recently been pried out of a crumpled car and didn't get a response. Every single one said the same thing. I tried not to worry. John was trying not to worry. Trying and failing, so he reached for his phone, not caring that Kate was in the middle of a story about one of her students who thought Toyotas were actually Toyotas, and how it was so hard not to burst out in laughter right there in the middle of her 4th-grade classroom. If you're much later, the Grossus are going to drink all of the wine. He added a winking emoji, even though he felt like hornets were burrowing into his brain via his ear canals, and winking or being coy was the last thing on his mind. He ended this latest message with, "Call me, please," then tapped the send arrow. Did that request sound desperate? John didn't care. He raised his eyeglasses, resting them atop his head, and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Lou refilled Kate's glass, then turned to John with a questioning raised eyebrow, but he stayed silent and didn't interrupt his wife's anecdote. John shook his head, so Lou passed him by and proceeded to top off his own glass. He then lifted his drink, prepared to down some more wine when,
"Wait, we haven't made a toast yet,"
Kate said, as she pinched the stem of her glass and lifted it, putting her story on pause for a glorious moment.
"It's bad luck to drink without a toast."
"You're making that up," Lou said. Kate shook her head, her uncontrollable mane of red hair convulsing. Her entire body went along for the ride. Light danced across the sparkly gold blouse she wore, the one that would have looked more appropriate in a discotheque circa 1975.
"I'm not. It's the God's honest."
Lou pulled his glass away from his lips. "Then what should we toast to? To Muck and his birthday?" His accent was barely discernible, but slipped out in certain letters. We became V. It also carried a melodious, almost sing-song quality John found fascinating when he wasn't on the edge of a panic attack.
"No!"
Kate almost shouted the word, and between her loudness and the rosy flush on her cheeks, John was sure she'd had a drink or 3 before even arriving at the restaurant. The woman wouldn't pass a breathalyzer, that was for sure.
"Save that one until Linda gets here,"
Kate added. They both looked to John for a suggestion, but he was fresh out of good ideas. Lou ran a hand across his mostly bald dome as he put his professional mind to use. Then his eyes sparkled. "We are dear friends from nearly opposite ends of the world, brought together in America, dining in a Mexican restaurant where most of the cooks believe Speedy Gonzales was a great war hero." He gave a soft chuckle. "We are so lucky to have found each other and to be here tonight together. So, let us toast to the American dream." He brought his glass forward, clinking it against Kate's, then John's, and then they all took a drink. But John might as well have been drinking water, as his mind couldn't focus on the flavor washing across his tongue. His thoughts were focused on the empty chair and the absence of his wife. He stared at his phone, trying to telekinetically force it to ring. Why wouldn't she call to tell him she'd parked and was coming up the steps at right this moment?
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.